Hi all, welcome to the stream today. My name's Miriam and I'm live today with serial entrepreneur Jeremy Lessaris for an Ask Me Anything session. Comment in your questions as they come up and we will make sure to answer them. Welcome, Jeremy. Let's start off with bringing everyone
Thanks.
kind of up to speed with who you are and what brought you to this
Thanks.
point in your journey.
Awesome. Well, thanks for having me. Really excited to do this because, and thanks for the push to do this. I really haven't put enough time into talking about my journey as an entrepreneur. So really grateful to get the chance to get out here and talk about it. I also love what you're doing. Doing these interviews is key. I also think I'm an entrepreneur's entrepreneur. I love startups and I love talking shop. So this is definitely a world I want to spend more time in. I really love watching these ideas take shape. It's something I've done most of my career. So, people grow from being an entrepreneur, lifestyles are built around it. And I've watched a lot of transformations happen in people's lives, starting things from scratch. So it's just really great. But I also get to learn a lot along the way. My career really started in marketing and communications. I worked for a now $25 billion a year manufacturing conglomerate in the US and China. I ran their entire marketing department. I started 17 or 18 years ago, and I was the Global VP of Marketing. I actually still consult for the company today, but just a great run. Got to ring the opening bell at NASDAQ. So I got the public world experience, but I've been a serial entrepreneur since I was 6. Started my first lemonade stand, which did extremely well, and that really got the bug in my ear. My parents were serial entrepreneurs, starting various companies throughout their careers, and so I got it really, really young. And since then, built and sold 7 companies in all different types of industries, mostly e-commerce, SaaS, a little bit in healthcare, and most recently fintech and a company in online reputation management, which I just closed on about 4 months ago. So a lot of fun building companies from scratch. I am a pure Bootstrapped Founder. So no capital raises, no outside capital, all my own blood, sweat, and tears, and a lot of money saved up over time. So I've had a lot of hurdles doing that, but I think it's also really unique because a lot of what you hear today is, capital raise and people running out of runway because they don't know how to spend the money or how to really balance themselves out as they grow. My most recent company is called Design Co. It's a new venture I started back in the late 90s as a just graphic design agency because I knew I had to support a lot of my own crazy business ideas. But we transformed the company over the last 2 years and turned it into a software-enabled graphic design subscription. That's a long term for basically a graphic design service. And it's been extremely successful and we had a lot of fun. And so that's really what we're up to today.
Yeah, and I've used design.co for the logo of Boga, which is amazing. I'm so happy with it. And love the platform. I think the first thing you're like, well, what feedback do you have on the platform? And I was like, well, I would want to use this. Can I white label? Can I use this with my own design? Like, this is so fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, I think, running a marketing agency inside a corporation like I did for, almost 2 decades, really, I just found so many pitfalls because I've hired, and we had a huge budget. I mean, I burned through millions of dollars in spend as a marketing group. And the biggest pitfall is there's no process. Like, I hired the largest advertising agencies in most parts of the world, and they're all different, right? There's no process. There was a million different project management tools that I was forced to use. And I think holistically, it's even when I hired freelancers, there was just no solid way for me to know things were going to get done the way I believe they should be done. And then it's just what I found after spending all that money is graphic design industry as a whole is just broken. And so I thought, hey, here's an opportunity for me to make an impact. I've had a lot of exits, so I had the bandwidth financially to do it the right way, the way I want to see it done. If I had, money to work with and no one breathing down my neck to do it a certain way. Companies have tried to solve this problem, but they solve it by making really low cost design, not quality. Or they've made really high quality, but the price follows it. And so, I think they haven't really solved the challenge. So I said, hey, this is something I'm up to doing. We thought add process, make things hyper efficient, and create a real quality cultured design career. And how we did that was by hiring locals, offering them a salary, not putting them on hourly, giving them the diversity and flexibility that those types of designers like to live in. And I think that was the whole point, is to decentralize a design job and also be able to offer a cost-effective, simplified way to get quality design in the US versus offshoring and freelance sites like, Upwork and Fiverr and others. So it was really a holistic approach, and it's been extremely successful. I've watched it grow, especially through COVID. It was an opportunity for us to take a step back and look at how we could impact the industry as a whole, and we've been doing that, and still grew just shy of 3,000% during COVID, which is absolutely amazing. We hired full-time, I think we hired 6 employees while people were firing. And it was just an amazing opportunity for us. And it's continued, right? We grew really horizontally during that time. And now we're starting to pick up quite a bit vertically with those same customers.
Yeah. And this is the website here. I just brought it up so people can kind of see how easy it is to use. You go in, you set up a profile, you can request designs, and you're communicating. I mean, I love the whole thing where the way that you even request the design, the way you force someone to think through what do you really want and gather that information for the designer, and it gets sent over to them and they send back the drafts. You can then go in, edit right there, like markup saying this is what I want changed, blah, blah, blah. Sometimes working with creative people like myself, I'm just kind of like, well, I want like the loop to be more whatever. I totally understood everything that I wanted.
We help people give structured feedback. I think the challenge is always like, you have a vision, right? And so getting the brain dump into a creative brief has always been a major hurdle. So we wanted to solve that problem first. So we really built a process to be able to methodically walk you through what a creative brief should be. And it came from the designers, right? I sat and listened to the challenges designers have, like, well, but I need the files, and how do I know more about their brand? And what about inspiration and competition? So companies can be as detailed as they want, or they can give us, full creative liberty and say, here's a very simplified creative brief. Most of our work today is actually working for other agencies. So we're kind of a agency for agencies at the current moment, where they're putting in these extraordinarily detailed creative briefs. And because it's all organized at a project level, we're not using an off-the-shelf project management system. We built it around what we felt was solid for the industry, not, well, here's Monday.com. How do we, custom configure it to fit our industry? And then we get granular feedback where people can actually mark up the design and turn those into actionable tasks. Nothing else was out there that could do that for us. So really, from communication, collaboration, proofing, and task management, now it's all in one platform. And so that's why I say hyper efficient, because we software enabled and bridged the gap between what designers couldn't communicate and what the companies who wanted quality design couldn't communicate. And so we did that through technology, right? So instead of our designers having to dig through 5,000 threads of emails with attachments that likely got, pushed into spam. Everything's now in a Slack-like environment where you can chat, and we were able then to focus designers on just design. No more like, well, what project should I be working on? We are assigning them projects based on their skill set. A digital designer and a print designer, they're very different disciplines. So I can assign the right designer for the project. I can then give them access to everything, logos, fonts, colors, and go beyond a traditional creative brief so they can stay on brand a bit further than what a designer would had they not had a long 4-hour phone call. They can get it all in a platform. And then there's no like, well, I sent you the files, like everything's in the platform. So then the dates get set. We standardized the dates, which I think to us was a big, huge learning event. It took us 2 years to get it down. And now that we have it, it's just amazing that the throughput is better. They don't have to worry about project management. They're not trying to manage their day because designers aren't effective project managers. So we were able to take that off the plate for them and really bring in a level of art direction and project management. So when somebody, puts in a project for us, they have a full stack design team. They don't just have a freelance designer. Like if they went on Upwork and they put in a project, now they have a team that's dedicated. They know the industry, they know the type of project, they have the design discipline that fits the type of project you put in, and then everything's all in one place, all the way to the point where you mark something approved, you have every revision that we've ever designed, including every source file, organized, layered, named, and really, for our sake, in a file system that you can access 24/7, 365. So you're literally marking it approved, and then here's my source files, my final print ready proofs. It just makes everyone's life a lot easier, and there's no project management per se. So we can focus more time on design, get better quality, and less hand holding of clients. So it's really been ultra successful from our side. So we've made a happier designer. They're salaried. They get to work Monday through Friday during normal business hours, not like a typical agency where they're working 12 hours a day. They have more creative liberties. They have everything organized for them so they can just do what they like to do, which is design, and they get diversity. We work for pharma. We work for, we're heavy in the cannabis space. We're working in tech, working for a ton of SaaS companies. So they get to get into the things that typically designers have this one brand life. They do the same PowerPoint. They can't change the logo. It's the same thing over and over, and it becomes boring and monotonous, right? So we give them this diverse world that they get to work in. And if they want to cross over and learn a new discipline, we have unlimited opportunities for them to go from print to digital, and we pay for that education. So we're constantly like, what can we do to help you learn more disciplines? Because you can work with more of our customers if you do. So it's really...
Love it. You're a fan of design.co.
I think I dropped
if
on you
people
there.
have questions for Jeremy, make sure you pop them into the comments section. Can you hear me, Jeremy? Hello? You're on mute. Yep, you're on mute.
Can you hear me now?
There you go. Yeah,
Okay.
I can hear you now. So one of the things in your bio that you make sure to mention is that you're a Libra, which I thought was kind of interesting. Like, what is that about?
I don't know. So for me, it's a balance. Probably the most unbalanced balancing act ever. I work really hard, but I also like to have a work-life balance. I think when I was in my career, I was super off balance. When I worked for a big company, I was working way too much and not really enjoying the work. And so now with this, I've kind of come back to the roots of this Libra scale where I'm really balancing my life, getting to enjoy what I do. I really love design. It's something I've been passionate about my whole life. I love marketing. I love the entrepreneur side of really building this thing the way I want to see it done. So it's really brought me back to my roots of who I am.
I love it. Yeah, your Instagram is fantastic. Very fun to watch you and your wife, and you guys just moved and you share the views
We
of
did, yeah.
Miami. It's
Yeah.
lovely.
Out of South
It's
Beach and like moving our office in the interim. So that's why I said it's a little bit challenged today, because we're literally in the move of our office to a little bit further north, but still in Miami.
very good. Yeah, Miami is pumping right now. We can talk about that a little bit later too. And we met through a group called Mindful Connections, which is organized by the amazing Tammy Martinez. I love her. So I was curious, what about that group, Mindful Connections, kind of called out to you that you were like, I want to join Mindful Connections?
So I met Tammy through a friend, some friends that own spas in Miami, Calma Spas and quite a few others here. And they just made the connection because we were new. We didn't know a lot of people in Miami. We brought our business from Chicago here. Just wanted to get connected with really thoughtful people. I came from the alternative healthcare space. I actually owned a company called Alternative Healthcare. It was a supplement distribution company. We sold to a lot of the mom and pop retailers, and that was really a fairly great business for us. Exited that company several years ago, but still heavily into alternative health. Big into, back to, again, the Libra roots, just balancing my life out. Big into biohacking. So I thought, okay, what a great group. A bit more mindful. And I think the stereotypes of Miami, because we lived in part hotel, part condo, it was tough because we weren't meeting people. The people we were meeting weren't necessarily a good fit, coming from the Midwest and my wife coming from Canada. So it was a little bit challenged when we first moved here to meet solid people in Miami, but that's really changed. Tammy really opened a lot of doors there, introduced me to some amazing people, and really love that group. I mean, just a great group, constantly pushing each other and helping each other in different areas. I'm also like fascinated because there's a lot of alternative modalities in that group. I follow a lot of that stuff pretty heavily. I'm into it. So it was just another thing for me to stay in the loop of.
Totally. I love that group too. Let's segue into your food and beverage experience because, for those of you that are watching live, this is Ask Me Anything with Jeremy. So make sure you comment any questions that you have. He's a serial entrepreneur with experience in food and beverage, fintech. He's bootstrapped many startups, been part of taking a company public, and is currently working on a design.co is a full-scale marketing agency powered by a software. So lots of knowledge that he's sharing with us today. But I
So in
wanted
the
to
food and beverage, I don't have a ton of experience with. What's funny is I came from this manufacturing group, and one of the employees there mentioned their experience with valve design for engines, and this is super random. And jokingly, I said it would be funny if you could add that to a champagne bottle. It would be a game changer for the champagne industry. And then we started building it. And so we actually decided to go a little bit different direction and created something called Mini Mosa. It's a single serving mimosa where the sparkling wine or Prosecco is separated from the orange juice. So we're actively working on the mechanical engineering side of that, as well as a couple patent projects that we're working on simultaneously. But it'll be a licensed product. We'll probably make our own at some point, but I'm not really a big fan of the beverage industry. I've heard the alcohol industry is a tough one to crack into, and it's pretty capital intensive. So probably not something I'm going to focus on, but another one of my crazy ideas that I just wanted to take shape. But we did design the packaging, had a lot of fun doing that. If you haven't seen it, it's minimosa.co. It's a beautiful crystal bottle that we had designed by a perfume bottle designer who's done things for Chanel and others. So we worked heavily with them to actually build the tooling around it to make it functional. And then the mechanical thing is the mechanical device releases the pressure from the bottle, but keeps the orange juice separate from Prosecco in a glass bottle. So really unique mechanical bev technology. Very rare that you hear about anything mechanical in beverage tech. Typically it's, bev tech like fintech. So something we will actively pursue sometime in the future, but it's just a fun project to kind of get me out from behind a computer for a little while.
Yeah, it looks delicious. I did check it out. I mean, the bottle is beautiful. Okay, so that's good to know. I have another food and beverage project that I'm working on called Roots Boost. So that's why I was like, let me talk to Jeremy about that. But
Yeah.
let's move on to talking a little bit more about bootstrapping. I'm currently bootstrapping, and I would love to learn about your tactics of success in that area.
So, I talk a lot about this with entrepreneurs that reach out to me, and it's tough. I think bootstrapping is the best experience anyone will ever get on how to manage runway, because I think people burn through their runway. I have $2,000 and I need to get this idea off the ground. I have $50,000 and I need to get this idea off the ground, and people go right to the things they don't need. And it seems as though, they want, everything simultaneously, but the reality, at least for my companies to date, I was big on launching things in a very small fashion, getting them to a point of revenue and focusing on profitability first. As I got more money to work with, I can do more things to accelerate that. But I think, micro startups, people who are like, I have a great idea and I want to get it off the ground, sell it. Sell the product back into making it. You don't have to have everything done simultaneously. Where I see people fail is they're like, I need to raise a bunch of money. And I understand like some very unique products that need to be first to market or somebody will replicate. But I think holistically, everyone should be able to make revenue in a very small fashion to prove the model first. So incubating ideas, getting them off the ground quickly, and something that floats around my office often, which is MVP. What is the minimum viable product you can bring to market to immediately see revenue? And then can I reinvest those profits to scale that business up? If you think about ideas in that way, especially for bootstrappers that don't have a lot of capital to work with, that's really the path that has been successful for me. So I believe it's something that people don't focus a lot of energy on, because it's always, write a business plan, go out, put a pitch deck together, try to raise $2 million or $5 million in a seed round. And that's not necessarily the best solution to get something off the ground quickly. And people invest a lot of money and never see, that funding come through. Not to say that it doesn't happen, but it's a longer path. And what ends up happening is they lose a lot of the value of the company because the just valuation is so small early on and there's no revenue. So they're pre-revenue deals. And I watch and I've seen companies take off and, you own 5% instead of 95%. So it's unfortunate, and I know it's a necessity for some people trying to get their ideas off the ground, but if there's a way to get to revenue with a very simplified version of their product or service or solution, they should do it. Prove the model out, make sure it's viable, start to see revenue and reinvest the profits to get, to really grow the company. And I've done that multiple times. I think every single one of my companies has done it. There's been one or two companies that had outside investment from a perspective that I wasn't the only founder of the company. So Zero Off, which was a GPS speed control, was heavily funded by one of the partners in the company. Zero Off is a GPS speed control for the marine industry. It's a standard product on every wakeboard and water ski boat. It's what holds the speed of the boat. So that type of company obviously had a lot of investment before anything was launched because there was a lot of engineering and things that went into it. But most companies, you know, again, if there's a way to make it work, I think even that we had sales before we had product. We were selling the concept, getting people interested, having people pre-order product before we even had a product to sell. So, you know, not saying the Kickstarter every idea. What's that?
We're getting some likes. People are liking what you're saying.
Not saying the Kickstarter everything, but speaking of Kickstarter, we're doing one ourselves. You know, I still think there's, yeah, we were going to launch this week, but we're in the middle of a move. We actually designed a employee-owned product. So, you know, we have amazing, talented designers. So we said, hey, what if you guys put your heads together and built a product? I'll help you market it. I'll help invest in the product and get it off the ground. And you guys will take the profit from it, and the proceeds go back to all our employees. So we made a card game called Quotables. It's a movie quote trivia card game. But it's tech enabled. So we put QR codes on the back. It's a really, really beautiful, amazingly designed product. And so it's going to launch on Kickstarter. It's a card game. It'll be fun. It's simple. But our designers put a lot of time and effort and energy into it. You basically act out the quote. You can scan the back of the card. It pulls up the video on YouTube. So it's kind of cool. A little gimmicky, but fun. And we got a Ron Burgundy impersonator to do a promo video for us. It'll be a lot of fun. So if you're into movie quotes, it'll be a project that we'll be promoting soon. But again, that's the same thing, right? We did back of the napkin, you know, financials. We said, what's the minimum viable product we can bring to market? And, you know, really teaching designers to be more than just a designer and getting them more buy-in as part of ownership of the products that we launch. We design this stuff for our customers every day. I said, I'm sure we can make something, you know, for ourselves. So there's a lot of products on the market, products on the docket for us to do over the coming years, but it's something that, you know, we give back to them as well. So it's a really good way to show how you can, with very little money, get a project off the ground and get to profitability quick.
Very cool. I'm excited to see that pop out, your Kickstarter. This seems like a good opportunity to talk about really quickly Bootstrap Publications, the sponsor of this episode. Check them out at bootstrappublications.com. And yeah, now we're back. A little short. I'm doing some testing with my YouTube channel. So now I know that sponsorship overlay needs to be transparent because it blacked us out completely.
That's great.
Okay. I can't wait to look back at these videos later and laugh so hard at myself. But you're doing great. It's just me. Hilarious right now. Like we just disappeared from the stream.
It's all good.
Okay, so yeah, it's all good. It's fine. So when you approach your building your brands or something, what's your motivation behind not going fundraising and getting investors? Why do you bootstrap versus raise money?
Equity, number one. I like to own what we build. You know, I think coming from having multiple bosses, I didn't want to go raise capital to have another boss. I wasn't in a hurry. I think a lot of people are in a hurry to get to revenue so they can line their own pockets. That wasn't my intention. It was a bit more thoughtful and planned out. I feel the pain from those that are trying to earn a living doing what they love to do. And I fear that it turns into a job, right? So they go raise capital and now they have a boss and they're like, where's the revenue? And they have, you know, all these things and the passion just gets ripped out of it. Not saying that it happens every time, but, you know, when venture capitalists get involved, it's the dynamic of why people start a company and the reasons change pretty quickly, where it's profit focused. And I've seen it happen. I'm not saying that it happens every time, but it's often that people raise money and now they have a boss that they didn't have before. And it's a lot of pressure to perform, and the stress comes with it.
I mean, can't you just negotiate in the terms like, look, this is a Las Vegas situation. You're gonna give me this money. I'm gonna do my best, but I ain't gonna report to you. You can advise and be a partner in growth. We can be a team.
Well, when you're an investor, you tell me how that goes. Hey,
I'm not gonna be an investor. That's not on my mind.
Yeah.
But I am thinking about and getting an investor for Quokka, which is different from all my other brands and products that I've done. I've always bootstrapped.
Yeah, listen, I don't have any. In fact, we're going out for investment capital at some point as well, right? We want to accelerate growth, but we have valuation, so it's very different for me because at that point, when I'm going to raise capital, there's actually value in the company because there's profit and process, and it's very methodical to go raise capital. It's very different when you have an idea and you're like, hey, I want to raise money. And they're like, great, I'll own it. I'll give you the money and you can work for me while you make this business viable. And if it is successful, like you think it will be in your projections, you'll own 5% of that. And right. So it just, if you believe in your idea enough that the valuation's bigger than the money you're raising, then that's a different discussion. But it's a value calculator at that point. Like, how much do you really want to own of it? If it is as successful as you believe it to be, do you want a boss? Do you need to do all this reporting back? There's a lot of things that come with funding that most people don't realize. I've been through it. When the company I work for went public, we raised a ton of money. We did a ton of non-deal roadshows. I saw stock get sold. I mean, it was really difficult. And then you literally have conference calls and have to report to all these investment groups. So it's really tough. So it comes with that, stigma of how much do you really want to have a job versus being an entrepreneur and really owning the whole thing. And again, some people have to have it. Some people just, it's a minimum to get their minimum MVP off the ground. They need capital. They can't build the app themselves. They can't, support or secure it. They can't go get enough customers to make it viable. So there is definitely companies that need to raise capital. And in those cases, I understand, like, there's also some very sensitive first to market type products where they need to do it quickly because they'll be fast followers. So I'm not saying don't go raise capital, but if there's a way to look at it and a way to make money off it in a smaller scale, or you can forego making money and build up a community or, other ways to monetize your business, I would say look at it, at least think about it so that you have valuation when you go to raise money. Somebody looks at your company is like, hey, you're worth $20 to $30 million. $2 million isn't 80% ownership, right? So there's definitely a bunch of different ways to calculate it at that point. But it's also, again, right. It's really, that's been my world. I'm not opposed to it. To just be wary of what you're getting yourself into.
Right. Very good tips, something to think about. What about messaging? I'm having some issues figuring mine out. How do you figure out messaging for a product? What do you do? Because I'm so artist brain. I'm over here like, oh my God, this is like.
Launch it.
It's not. I
swear I'm gonna write a book called, Pull the Trigger, because I often hear people plan themselves into never doing. Especially me.
I'm launched.
Okay, so if you're launched, then what it is the voice of the customer needs, right? Your messaging it definitely changes, right? What I thought our messaging was going to be with iReview, which is the company we recently sold. I thought the messaging was very different than what it ended up to be later on as the company grew up and had customers. And we served a lot of customers in Miami Beach. And what I found was that message was very different than what I thought it was going to be. So it really morphs as you put product out into the market and customers respond. And you see this happen with even some of the biggest companies you know today. They're constantly changing their messaging. So it's better to shoot. It's not going to be perfect. Get it out, get it launched, and then listen. The more feedback you can get from customers. I spent a ton of time listening to customer feedback. We wrote surveys. In fact, I think you went through this process with us as well. We're big on reputation. We're big and very focused on listening to real voice of customer. I ask people for authentic feedback, and we've helped them structure it so that I know how to digest that information rather than hey, so what did you think? How was your experience? We break it down into, topics that we believe are relevant to helping our business continue to move forward. And then the messaging changed again and again and again. So it's an ever evolving thing. I don't think there's this is the way to come up with your messaging. I think what you think it is, I'd say go with that until you learn better. Or, if you can start by polling and screening customers and getting the voice of your customer early on before you launch, do it. I know a lot of companies spend time there. Just don't plan yourself into a corner. I find so many people still perfecting, when are you going to launch that thing? Let's get it off the ground. So the sooner you can get it to market, the better.
So what kind of questions are you asking? And then talk about that digestion process, and then turn that into messaging.
Yeah, so we have a customer survey that we ask as many customers as possible. You don't get what you don't ask for, so we ask as many times as we can. Hey, we'd love to hear your feedback. Honest, we have thick skin feedback. And we've broken it for the design industry specifically into, service-oriented things, design-oriented things like color and font and, spacing, and others that are more design principle-led. Do I have an issue with designers? Do we have an issue with customer service, timeliness of communication? When we find customers excited about something that has filled a gap in their lives, that was amazing. It got done so efficiently. That became our messaging. The word hyper efficient came from a customer, right? They said, this was hyper efficient. It just got done so efficiently. Now I know why it's less expensive and it's not as complicated. So if you go to our website, it literally says quality design without the cost and complication, right? 70% less than a traditional agency. So these are things we've gleaned from our customer feedback. We were using a little bit more of an advanced textual analytical tool because we had that from our days of online reputation management, where we were reading thousands of reviews and digesting that information. But you can do that yourself, right? Just kind of generic voice of customer. Once you start to learn where those value props impact your customer the most, that is your message, because that's what people want. They want it. They want a big impact for their money. And so that has been our focus for most of our companies. I think, in the online reputation management space, we started by saying, grow and manage your online reviews. That's not what people cared about. They didn't want to grow and manage their online reviews. They wanted a reputation that brought a return on investment, right? So I'm going to invest in getting more Google reviews, and that's going to drive more customers, right? So we completely changed our messaging to the function to the benefit, really.
Your one-liner should be not what your product is, but what it provides for your customer. Is that what we're kind of doing here?
Yeah, it depends on how descriptive your company is, right? Design code is pretty easy to explain without having a tagline. They're like, okay, you're in the design industry. But if somebody has a name that you don't let's go back to eBay. What's eBay?
Let's go to Quokka. Let's go to Quokka.
Well, let me just say this though.
No one knows what this.
Doesn't matter though. all you have to do is see one, and then you get it. Because my
Right.
entire design team, we had a design review, and I pulled up Quokka, and everybody's smiling, and I go, that's the business right there.
Yeah.
You guys got
right?
it? Yeah. So
Yeah.
we thought it was a fake animal, but apparently it's real. And I think I sent you can hire a Quokka from the Australian Zoo to do a cameo video, which I thought was awesome. Anyway, that's the point. If your business is descriptive enough in the name itself, great. If it's not, you definitely need a tagline of what it is you do, because people need to know without having a dissertation. If it's super complicated, then yeah, you need to get into the what is it that you exactly do.
I definitely need to write this down. I'm having some inspo happening right now.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, definitely. For those of you that are watching live, comment, say hello at a minimum. I just want to know who's watching this stream right now. Like, it's really interesting to me that people are tuning in, and just say hello. I'm sure this is people I know, or that we'd love for you to just say hello. And then if you have a question for Jeremy, we're around for the next 15 minutes without asking anything. Serial entrepreneur, has bootstrapped, rung a NASDAQ bell, sold companies, lots of experience and knowledge being dropped, and is available for you. So we were just talking a little bit about. Go ahead. Yep.
No, you were going to say you're having some inspo around your tag, or your mission statement.
Quokka, I've been it's changing to be. It's always descripting. I've always been like, it's an anonymous messaging exchange. Oh, it's anonymous messaging club. It's this and that. Forget that. Like, I think I need to just be like, what does Quokka do? It's like, and that's the one-liner for that Quokka for the messaging. It's like, it's a safe place, or it's like, it makes you happy, or like, increase your mental health, like things like that.
I'm sure you've heard the I think his name is Simon Sinek about the why.
That's sweet.
I'm sure if you haven't watched the TED Talk about the golden circle of why, I think it's a super valuable thing to look into, because when you really know why you're doing something and you can get that message across to people and it impacts them, it's a game changer in the way that people adopt what you do. So I started off this call by telling you our why. I wanted to impact the design industry as a whole. Design Co is just part of that solution. I believe there's a lot of other things we can do to make a positive impact to designers for their lives and their careers, and for companies to cost effectively scale their marketing, right? Forget Design Co as a whole. I just believe there's a better way, and that's really our mission. I wish that could be our tagline, but people would be like, save the planet, like, sometimes that's good enough. Sometimes you need to get a little bit deeper into the what. Like, what does that mean to me? Because that's all people care about, unfortunately, in our, short 9-second attention spans. That's the mind share you get for that period of time. So the sooner you can deliver what you believe you can impact, I think the faster people adopt it. They go, wow, that's actually what I'm looking for. Quality design without cost and complication. They go, I got it. I know that's what we do, but it's really the result of what we do, right? It just makes your life easier. So that was how we came up with ours. And again, that came from, it started with like software enabled graphic design subscription, and people went, what the hell is that? I don't know what that means. And just saying graphic design service is a me too. It just didn't really differentiate. So there's probably a lot of things that are going on and where that line came from. But when you're trying to start with the why. What is it that you're trying to impact? And I believe it comes naturally after that, really. You start to feel what your customers would feel by listening to what your tagline is.
Yeah, it definitely is. It's changing all the time, and I have my why, but that's another stream. So let's talk a little bit about onboarding. What are some of the key things that people should keep in mind when it comes to onboarding?
Perfect your customer profile. Like to us, we onboarded a lot of people we never should have. Customers that didn't fit, and spent a lot of time, effort, energy, dollars trying to keep those customers onboarded. In our onboarding process was a lot of listening and a lot of less structured walkthrough of every feature and benefit of what we do. So I think when we bring a new customer on, we're spending more time listening to what their expectations are from us and trying to tailor the way we describe what we do and how we work in a way that fits what they're looking for, so long as it is a fit from a customer profile perspective. So I think, onboarding gets easier and easier when the customer profile actually fits your business model. But when you're in startup mode, you're like, I'll take every customer, right?
Right.
And that's not really, it's not sustainable long term. So we've learned a lot, about what our customers should look like and how they react and respond. And we spend more time, even after we've, acquired the customer and everything's paid and ready to go, still making sure they're a fit during the onboarding call. That's for our business. Maybe that's not for every business, but, had we done that with some of our other businesses in the past, especially like the review platform, that would have saved us a lot of trouble in attrition later. But also invest in onboarding. Like, we're a customer service company first. We're just designed really well after. We really focus on making sure we're attentive, reactive, responsive, and very clear in communication. And that's been a real successful thing for us because we have really raving fan customers. They've got nothing but great things to say about how we communicate. So that all starts with onboarding, spending time getting to know your customer, building a personal relationship with them as well isn't a bad thing. I think that's a lost art. Everybody's a number today, right? From your cell phone to your utilities, like you call and they're like, what's your customer number? It's terrible. So we try to bring some of the service back. And so I've said this a lot in even things that we've posted as a company, and I've said it through all of our organizations, that we're people powered. Just software is kind of pointless by itself. People want to know that there's service behind it. So spend time with the customer, really, especially in the beginning phases of new customers. I guess that's my 2 cents on onboarding. I saw Casey say hi. She really runs that for us and does a phenomenal job of building up what that customer profile looks like, and has tailored over the last couple of years, our onboarding process to fit just about every customer type. So it's been a good learning experience for me, but more importantly, it's helped long term with our LTV, right? The lifetime value of our customers is tremendous now. So because we're a subscription-based service, month to month, we have no long-term commitments. We have to prove our value every month. So we're constantly trying to do better and learn more about how we can fit in the customer profile and be able to onboard better. So I'm always open for advice there.
We should have Casey on for Ask Me Anything with just onboarding.
She should.
A lot of questions about that. So just a couple more questions. I know we're getting to the top of the hour here. How do you go about getting press and exposure for your startup?
Great question. So 99.9% of our businesses were all started by word of mouth. That is not a scalable business model, but that is how we started. Design Co is the same thing. I think, I started with a very small handful of clients. I built that business off of referrals, and it's really grown since. We have spent $0 in marketing from a pay-per-click or paid advertising perspective. So that's a good story to tell. But we have invested quite a bit in automation and sales automation. And so I'm not big on passive marketing. I love aggressive, direct sales approaches for most things that we've ever had. So having sales people involved is key to the companies I've been involved in. Everything from Seabolt, which is a company I'm invested in, all the way to Design Co. So I would say aggressive direct outreach has been the success of my companies, especially early on. At some point in the future, you do have to turn on paid advertising if you want to scale. So invest profits and do it slowly, because there's a lot of things you think are going to work that aren't. So pay-per-click isn't always what it's cracked up to be for every industry. Some people just have it dialed in, and it, they put $1 in, they get 10 out. And be able to track, right? I mean, every marketing has some traceability today, even print. So the more you can track, the better investment decisions you'll make as you scale up. Especially bootstrappers, it's tough because you can't burn through a marketing budget and not see a return. So be able to track. Number one thing before you start, be able to track every dollar spent.
Let me tell you, I just spent a whole thing just trying to figure it out with the tracking, and it still's not working. So I'm like, can't spend money on ads. I feel like the universe is really telling me, don't do ads, girl. You need to do some of these organic strategies first.
Organic is the way, and it's so much more long term. When people are like, well, I'm spending $10,000 a month in pay-per-click, I'm like, how much are you spending in search engine optimization or thought leadership or others? And they're like, 0. It's such a backwards model. Like, long term, if you get placement because of thought leadership or article distribution or content that isn't just spun articles that have keywords, like really thoughtful, readable value to your customers, that stuff lasts forever. There's a case study, I'll try to dig it up and maybe I can send it to you, about a social media marketing company that got one article on Medium that just literally completely changed their company, right? So I think content has value. Doing what you're doing, podcasting, writing articles, those things have value, but it is tough. It takes a long time. It's not it's a marathon. It's not a sprint. So people give up because they put out 10 pieces of content and they're like, it's not working. And that's not really the game. It's a long-term thing. So I always tell people to invest. It's a very long-term thing. Just depends, but one article can literally change a company, right? If it's placed correctly, if you really dial in what your customers are trying to learn, it can really make a big impact on sales and profitability, because once it's out there, it doesn't cost any more for it to be out there. Also, partnerships, I think, are key, especially early on. Finding strategic alliances with companies that can help you promote your product with not a lot of cost out of pocket. That's always a huge value for us. We've learned to service B2B and those customers, especially now, us working with a lot of agencies. That agency is doing the job of promoting us by getting more customers, and they use us. So it's good to do that if it fits your business model.
Right.
I also highly recommend commission-only sales reps for everything to get things kicked off. There are billions of them. They are all, hungry to find the next, thing that's going to take off. So there's a lot of strategies around hiring commission-only people. Our business, it didn't work specifically for Design Co, but it does for a lot of the companies that are out there. So lots of ways to get your product out without spending a ton of money.
Excellent. Thank you for those tips. I know we're at the top of the hour. What if people have more questions, they want to get in touch with you? How can they go about that?
Sure. You can visit our website, design.co. You can email me direct, jeremy@design.co. And me personally, jeremylessaris.com. A little bit more about things I'm into and companies that we're launching, things like that. So all that stuff is on there, as well as most of my contact info.
Excellent. Well, thanks for spending the hour with me. I appreciate it.
Likewise, it
And
was
thanks
great.
everyone
Like I
for watching.
said, thanks for the push to do this. Hopefully get to do this a little bit more often now. And good luck with Quokka. Here to help if I can in any way. Love the concept, love the idea, and love the entrepreneurship. So any way I can be a help, here to help.
Thank you, Jeremy. I'll talk to you soon. Thanks so much, everyone, for
Sounds
tuning
good.
in. I hope you guys have a great day.
Take care.